For the blessing of the Lord has made itself rich and has added no sorrow. We're in rejoicing mode.
Come and just see the fulfillment of what God said he would do.
Can't talk about the vision of Ultimate Life Church without going all the way back to the Covenant Church, which is the first church that we started here in our hometown of Long Beach, California. We were doing the Covenant Church, and it was about 5 years in doing the Covenant Church when the Lord began to deal with both my heart and my wife's heart about where we lived, and that was the Inland Empire.
Right.
So for about 5 years, 5 to 6 years, we would drive from the Inland Empire all the way to Long Beach.
Yeah, 5 years straight.
Yeah, 5 years straight. Every Sunday.
Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. We probably missed on a hand count, not even 5 Sundays and Wednesdays at Covenant Church.
Right.
Not only that, but we burnt through 2 cars.
Right.
Doing
2
all that
cars
driving.
broke down.
2 cars broke down. That Mercedes just dropped, and that was it.
With those shocks.
Yeah, shocks dropped, and that was it. After about the 5th year is when I went into a deep consecration and sabbatical, just praying and asking God, where are we relative to his plan for our lives, and what is it that he wanted to do? Are we pleasing? Are we in the right place? Are we doing the right thing at the right time in the right location? And as we were praying about that, my wife would oftentimes speak into my life, and I had to adjust myself because being my wife, sometimes I wouldn't recognize her as the woman of God as she is, as far as being a prophetess of the Lord and having the word of the Lord in her mouth. Right. And so she would speak to me about the Inland Empire, her and my son and my daughters.
Right.
And I would always dismiss that because we were having great success in Long Beach. And I wanted God to do it right there in Long Beach.
Exactly. You were going to make him do it there.
I would get visibly angry driving down the way. We'd be on the way to church. I'd be visibly angry about talking about the Inland Empire. But we lived out here, and then lo and behold, after about the 5th year, after coming out of consecration, we get a prophecy. And the word of the Lord is that God was pleased with us, which is one of my biggest things, is making sure that what I do for the kingdom, what I do for God, that he's pleased with what I do. I never want to be doing anything just to be doing it.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that I was pleasing the Father, because that's all that matters in the end.
That's right.
And so when we got the word, it said the Lord was pleased with us. It spoke about a building, and it spoke about the category of church we would be, and it spoke about location. We had some good success at Covenant Church, and to be challenged to walk away from that and to do something fresh, to start something new was a big deal for us. But I remember we were going to I had been in prayer about it, and as we were going into 2000, I believe it was 2019, I had been in prayer in 2018, all of 2018, and we were going to get our doctorate degrees. And the chancellor began to speak to us, and she didn't know anything about our situation, and she prophesied to us at the rehearsal and just messed us up. I mean, messed us up. I couldn't sleep that night. I was just in a wreck because she's told us specifically, she says, this marks the beginning of a new season for your life.
Right.
And she says, and not only that, but she said, you got to get over it.
Right.
And she said, and I was trying to figure out, what does she mean by we have to get over it? She said, you and Pastor Keisha have to get over it. And then she says, not only you, but the people will have to get over it. And that's what's keeping you from getting over it. We start at the hotel, and I'm thinking, okay, God, our first Sunday, who's going to show up? I mean, I have no idea. I'm nervous as all get out. I'm like, God, I don't know what to expect. We done got the place all nice and set up, and both of our daughters come home, our son come home, just to be a part, just to say at least my family was there, right?
Right.
And we were driving down the 215 freeway, and I mean, I was nervous. I was just like, God, I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know what's going to happen. Not to mention the offering, God, how I'm going to live
Lord,
now, how I'm going to sustain myself. So, I was going through all these mental hurdles, and lo and behold, we get there on Sunday morning, and there's like 50, 60 people in the room.
Right.
I mean, messed us up. And ever since that first Sunday, it's just been a rolling momentum.
So when we moved into the hotel, you said, we're going to do this for 5 Sundays straight at 5 o'clock every Sunday.
Right.
5 is the number of grace, number of favor. The 5th Sunday, you said, okay, we're going to transition to Sunday mornings. right?
Right.
And so after 3 months of doing that, what happened?
We get home, and I'm sitting there cooking, preparing to eat, and my wife says, babe, look at this building. So when my wife showed me the building, I was like, yeah, we're just gonna believe God. She hands me her phone, and I look at the building. I start scrolling through the pictures, and I'm like, call them right now. It was Sunday evening, like 5 o'clock. I said, call them right now. I don't know, we ain't got the money, but call them right now.
Mind you, we're talking 90 days of being,
90 days of being in the Inland Empire, and only 3 Sunday mornings.
3 Sunday mornings.
And 90 days of being here. So it's our third month.
Right, so we call 2 days later, the pastor of the church contacted Dr. Russell and set it up. He said, I want to set up an appointment for you guys to come and see the building.
We walked in the door.
We felt the peace of God like I cannot even explain. Although it was bigger than where we were, not, numerically and financially.
Right.
Numerically and financially.
Your promise will always outweigh your problem.
That's right. And if it's not bigger than you, it's not bigger. Listen, then it's not God. It has to be
Our
bigger
problem
than you.
was the money. Our problem was the membership.
Right.
But the promise was so great that favor brought it to us.
So we get in and we're walking around, Dr. Russell. We meet the pastor. He is like, do you all love the building? I said, we love it. He said, you want me to show you around? I said, yes, in just a moment. So I walk in. I go to the altar. I'm like, thank you, Lord. I felt the presence of God.
My wife started worshiping in front of a pastor.
I did. I really did. I just began to give him glory in advance because it was something that we prayed for. And when we walked in, we just felt God.
We filled out the application, sent it back to her,
Right.
and we thought for sure, she was going to call us back and say, okay, can we get bank statements? Can we get a record of your membership?
Oh my God.
How many people do you guys have? Do you make X amount of money times the rent or more than the rent? And sure enough, we sent that application in that day. And we were getting dressed to go to a service.
So do you want to keep it real, Pastor? You want to tell them really quick?
No, I'm going to tell them.
Okay. My God.
We were getting dressed to go to a service. So I was putting on my clothes. And then we had just sent the letter off, the application off earlier that day. And she called us. She said, okay, it's going to take probably about 2 weeks. So, we're getting dressed to go to a service. And my wife is in the shower. And I'm in the room and I'm kind of fiddling around. And all of a sudden her phone rings. I look at the phone. And I'm like, oh no. I open the shower and I give my wife the phone.
In the shower.
I'm like, I don't want to talk to her because I don't want to hear nobody say no. I don't want to hear her ask me for something that we don't have.
You had no faith right then.
Well, it ain't my faith. I just couldn't handle it because we were too close to apprehending the promise that I was just on edge. And I didn't want her asking me for something or bank statements and all these things. And I was like, I don't want to talk to her. And I give my wife the phone in the shower. And of course she gets out of the shower and wrapped in a towel and starts screaming and hollering. And at that point I knew it was done. I took off running down the hallway, sprinted back, ran back again, and we were shouting in our room. I think people in our area probably thought we were fighting or something, it was crazy.
It was crazy because the thing was, I wasn't trying to act dignified. I wasn't trying to act any kind of way. We were grateful for what the Lord had done, and the lady who called us, she was able to really get in that moment with us. And I told her, I said, I am sorry, you just don't know.
She was on the phone, y'all. We were hollering, we got it, we got it, we got it.
I mean, it was surreal, and it was like, God, you did, because sometimes we're always in this mode of asking God. And in the moment that thing manifests, it's almost like he really did what he said he was going to do. And it wasn't that you didn't think he would, but it's almost like now you're in a place and in a space that you have not been accustomed to. You know what I mean? And it's almost like you don't even know what to do, but just give him praise and thanksgiving. And so crazy. He did it. So Pastor, you were running. I never seen you run like that in my life.
No, I don't usually run. Now came the part of saying, okay, God, how you gonna do this now? Because
Right.
you know, we gotta have it. You know, there's no doubt to it. So we called who we needed to call. You know, we told people and this, that, and the other, and people rejoiced with us. But we went to church that Sunday morning. This is our 4th Sunday now in the Inland Empire, and we put up the poster, the flyer, you know, big announcement, what have you. Told the people, hey, we got approved for the building. We had it blown up on cardboard. We had it blown up so people could see the vision, and we uncovered that at the end of service, and people saw the facility, and listen. Ultimate just went off. They went off in that. We turned that hotel out that Sunday. We really did. We were all out in the entryway, running up and down and shouting, and it was bananas. And the people that were with us at Ultimate never once flinched at the idea of the money to get into this place.
That's right.
And so what happened was we had men and women of God call us once it was known, and they began to sow into the vision and sow into the building. Many of whom were saying, hey, man, we need a building. We're going to sow into it. Man, you just stirred my faith. And God, you just inspired me all over again. And, you know, and it's amazing how God can do something with one person to inspire a whole tribe of people. And so it was happening like that. And I'm telling you something. Then I call her my mother in the spirit, my wife's mother in the spirit. And that is none other than Evangelist Pat Ashley. She sowed the first seed. Her and one of some of our best friends, and that is Elder Curtis Lawless and Evangelist Jennifer Lawless. They sowed. They came to church that Sunday. They sowed $1,000. Evangelist Pat Ashley sowed $2,000. And at that point, a $1,000 pledge was birthed at Ultimate Life Church, and we ended up receiving over $10,000 from just pledges that were made, which put us in position to occupy the building with no stress and no strain. So we get in, and here's the deal. When we go to sign the papers, we get to the table, and she says, well, do you guys want the other facility, which is right down the way? 2 doors down. 2 doors down.
The offices and the children's.
Yeah, the offices and the children's church. And I'm thinking, I do. I want it, but I can't afford it, right? I'm like, I don't know if we should step out that far. We're already in the deep. You're trying to drown me now, right? And so she says, well, the people that were going to get it, they backed out. It didn't go through. And me and my wife are looking, so we say, well, we don't know. We said, we'll pray about it. So she says, y'all give me a call. We'll hold back the signing date. Y'all give me a call. And me and my wife were talking, and we were like, okay, so what should we do? So she calls and said, well, what can you guys do? And at that point, you really got to have the audacity of faith, because you tell people exactly what you can do. Don't put yourself out there. Don't overextend yourself. Tell them what you can do. We said, look, this is what we can do. And she said, how about I do even better than that?
She had a certain amount that she wanted for that unit. And the number that God gave us was half of what she was asking for. And we said that we can, if you will allow us to have that facility at this price, at least to the end of the year, we will be in a better position to be able to give you what you're asking for. But right now, this is all we can do, which was half of what she she asked. And she said, how about this? How about I just allow you all to pay that amount? Period. Forever. That was nothing but the favor of God.
Yeah, for the full term, we had it. So needless to say, y'all, we walked into over 8,000 square feet of space with approximately maybe 50 people who hadn't even become members yet. We hadn't even done a membership. We were just meeting. And here we are with over 8,000 square feet of space, already set to have church. We literally could walk in and just, bam, have service, because the church that was there, they didn't want to take the sound system with them. They wanted to leave it because it was custom made. They made a deal with us for the chairs. So literally all we had to do was go in and have church, y'all. And I'm telling you, we got in, and we made it happen, and here we are, Ultimate Life Church. When you talk about the cost, we talk about cost. That I don't think people fully understand. We look at the building, we look at the glory, we look at a Sunday service, we look at people joining, we look at the congregation growing, but I don't think people really count the cost of all of that. And so when you ask, what was that cost? That begins to get really, you can get real emotional about that, because not only did it cost my wife and I, but it cost our children. One of the things that it cost us for Ultimate Life Church, though, is it cost us everything. Yeah. And when I say everything, I mean everything. We left furniture behind. We left everything that we had accumulated in Texas to move back to California. We literally showed up with California with nothing but clothes. And no place to live, just clothes. So we showed up and we stayed with a friend of a friend who allowed us to stay in her home. She had a big 5-bedroom home. And all 5 of us, my wife, me, my wife, our 3 children, Jeremy, Jade, and Jordan, we all stayed in one room in this 5-bedroom home. And we stayed there for almost, I want to say, 2 or 3 months, and all we had was our clothes. So we would run back and forth to the car. We had a navigator. We would run back and forth to the navigator, swapping out clothes for the next day, because we didn't have anywhere to put our clothes. So we kept them in the car. And 3 months of that.
Before we moved from Texas to California, maybe about 6 months before we got the phone call to come to California, my husband lost his job. We don't have any money saved. We're like, okay, what is really going on, God?
So I'm sitting at the table that next morning, and my wife is a go-getter, y'all. I didn't marry a wife who'll sit around and just be like, well, Negro, you better do something, right? That's not who she is. So she's a go-getter. So I'm sitting at the table trying to figure this thing out, and I'm like, you know what? What I'm going to do is go get this EBT card to make sure we can eat.
That's right. That's right.
I dropped my pride. Never had been on any kind of assistance.
Never.
So when I tell people, hey, I've been there, I know what I'm talking about. Right. We've been homeless. We've slept in a car. We've been without money.
The cost.
We've had EBT cards. So we know what it's like. I went down there in a Range Rover.
Yes,
no. I went down there in a Lincoln Navigator. Yeah. At the time, Lincoln Navigators were the bomb, right?
It was brand new.
It was brand new. Went down there in a Lincoln Navigator.
Dressed up.
You know what I'm saying? Brand new Nikes on. Trying to ask for some money. They looking at me like, who is this dude? What are you in here for, right? I'm filling out papers and stuff, you know. God blesses it. We get some money. We got food to eat, right? Now,
as a matter of fact, there they gave us like almost $900
they blessed
every
us.
2 weeks. $900 We were going in the grocery store. We were just grabbing everything.
We went to the grocery store, y'all. We were just stacking that basket up. What y'all want? Bam, kids, get what y'all
our
want.
baskets were high like this.
We had 2 baskets, I think, our first trip to Walmart.
God.
Super Walmart. We had 2 baskets.
People are looking at us like, oh.
We get into the front of the line. And we're in a neighborhood where we knew a few people, you know.
Right.
So we get to the front of the line, and I ain't scared. I pulled out my wallet, I whipped that EBT card out, put that joker in there, punched in the code, and pulled it out. We was out the door with $900
worth of groceries.
With about $300 or $400 of groceries. So we stacked it up. But you know what? And the thing is, and I want to say this before my wife gets to the part where God really began to move for us, and that is, prior to this point, I had given up on ministry.
Yes, you did.
But I had an encounter with God alone in my work vehicle, and to the point where I had to pull over to the side because I was crying uncontrollably, because I felt the weight of having walked away from what I knew I was called to. Right. And that weight drove me to a position of repentance, to being broken. And I began to ask God after that encounter, and I told my wife about it, and I began to ask God, how do I get back? Do I join a church? Do I join a denomination? Just work my way up as a minister? What do I do? I had always been an associate pastor. I had always been around successful ministries. And so I didn't know how to get back. But lo and behold, God's way of getting back meant that I had to be stripped of everything that I had already accumulated when I had left the ministry. And so I'm sitting at the table that day trying to figure this thing out. I get back from getting my EBT card, and my wife looks at me and says, I got a plan.
So
here's the plan.
Here's the plan. So the night my husband was handed his keys, his keys were taken from him and was told that he no longer had a job. That night I went into prayer, and the Lord spoke to me that next morning. And what I saw when I woke up was a vision of a snow cone machine. And I saw all these flavors. And then I saw a tent. And I said, okay, God, what are you saying? What are you asking me to do, Lord?
Right.
And I saw it. And he said, I want you to go rent you a snow cone machine. I want you to go get all the flavors. I want you to get you a brand new tent. And I want you to set it up as if it was your own business. I said, okay. I said, God, if this is you, when I make these phone calls, these store managers are going to favor us to do this.
Right.
And so I called that morning like the Lord instructed me. And there were 3 stores that agreed for me to come. So I had to choose which one. So the first one was Walmart, which you get all kind of traffic coming in and out. And so I woke up, I went and told my husband what the Lord told us to do. I got my children, because my husband at the time was still broken, just trying to understand, God, what's really going on. Got to Walmart, rented all the stuff that I needed, had it set up, just real professional, really neat. And within 2 hours, there was a line wrapped around the Walmart. And people would come and they would get snow cones and they would just give and they would just, literally, it would just come in, and at the same time, we had a chance to minister to people. Folks were getting saved. People were getting delivered right in front of the Walmart. We did it, and literally, they were wrapped around. The line would just, it was nonstop. We would have to go into the Walmart and keep getting ice. We would run out of flavors. And by the end of the day, it was like $3,000 a day we were making for the summer. Every weekend. I would do it 2 times. I would do it on Saturday and then after church on Sunday. And each day I was getting like $2,000-$3,000 a day. And it was covering our rent. We were able to pay off bills, and we were making more money than
in 2 days.
In 2 days than my husband made
in 5
days. And while God was blessing us, people were getting saved, and it was all kinds of walks of life. Asians and Hispanics and Blacks and Caucasians, and it was just ministry, but God was blessing us at the same time. And our children were watching, hey, you never give up. You have to persevere no matter what the enemy tries to do. And they didn't see us quit. They didn't even look at their dad as a failure because he didn't want to keep going. He was a man, yet he was called by God. But yet there are times in your life when you don't always understand God's ways and the price and the calling, the cost of the calling. And then eventually my husband, the following weekend, he would come and he would set everything up. I remember him setting up everything. And then eventually he would come out and then he started helping us. Because the first time he was like, I'm not going.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not getting ready to do this.
If God's who he is,
if God's who he
is, do something, but I ain't
and
going
I understood.
And, when she came home, I went and picked y'all up.
Right.
That first time, I went and picked them up, put everything in our truck, and I'm getting in, the kids are smiling, and she looking at me and smiling, and I'm like, what are y'all so happy about, right? And I had cooked dinner or something. I cooked some of my famous chicken soup. Y'all got to try that. And my shrimp and grits is off the chain. Anyway, I had cooked dinner, and then so we in the car, right? and we're driving home, and she's smiling and looking at me. She pops open her money box, and she just starts peeling off and counting and counting and counting. And I heard her, 1,000, and I'm like, okay. I'm driving. I'm like, 1,000, okay. And then she gets to 1,500. I'm like, switch and get to my left so I could actually see what's going on. And she moves past 1,500, 17, 2,000, 22. I'm like, what? And that day she had made roughly about maybe $2,300 or some odd dollars selling snow cones. And literally, it wasn't a sale, it was a donation.
Right.
And people would just donate whatever amount of money they wanted to donate, and we gave them a snow cone.
And it was during the summer
that
months.
was the first weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, it was in Texas, we talking about 100-degree weather. And so in the summer months, that was a gold mine, right?
And we did
and we had other people, y'all. Listen, so the second weekend, I was like, okay, I'm going. I get out there.
Now you're going, huh?
I'm there now. She's making money. I'm there. And the whole summer, that lasted for about maybe 3.5 months or so.
That's right.
That whole summer, I couldn't find a job,
Right.
And we're out there doing it, and God's moving in big ways, and he's blessing it. We had other people trying to do it at spots that we left and went to another store, and they were like, how did y'all do? And we were like, it's been great. And that's because, we realized that it's not about you doing it, it's about you having favor to do it.
Grace to do it.
And when God
That's right.
speaks a thing, and he puts it, and that's what I want to say to people too who have a vision. Don't be intimidated by the weight or the largeness of the vision, or even if somebody else is doing what God told you to do. Because when God tells you to do something and he puts his word on it and his hand on it, it surpasses what everybody else is doing and puts you into the place and category you're supposed to be in.
Well, it's celebration time here
Celebration.
at Ultimate Life, and we are so excited about what the Lord has done. This is the time where we can celebrate prophecy being fulfilled here at
Yes.
Ultimate Life Church. The Bible says for us to rejoice with them that rejoice.
So come on and rejoice
Come on
with
and
us.
rejoice with us. And you know what? I believe that your presence here will make the difference. We can't do this by ourselves. We need you here to help us celebrate what God has done. It's no fun to celebrate by yourself.
Yeah, who celebrates by themselves,
right.
right?
It's like having a cake and nobody there to wish you a happy birthday.
So listen, by the mere term celebration, it's a time of excitement, it's a time of being happy, it's a time of rejoicing, and it's a letting out of the feelings and the emotions. And oftentimes celebration, the thing behind it is most people don't understand that to get to the point of celebration, you had to go through something.
That's right.
So now that we've arrived at the prophecy fulfilled, we've
Right.
arrived at the word fulfilled, we just want to have a time of coming together and rejoicing together at what God has done for us here at Ultimate Life Church.
Absolutely.
We've got a building, y'all. It's time to celebrate. It's time to go up and be, am I going to use the word lit? Can I use the
Oh
word
my
lit?
God, Jeremy's going to get you to say that. Right. Amen. We're excited though.
We're
We
excited.
really are. As you can see, we're excited about what God has done, because you know what? This is something that we've prayed for. It's something that we've been believing God for.
Right.
And to see what God said manifest just encourages you to
Absolutely.
continue to go after God, continue to believe and trust him at his word.
We're in a time and a season, not just at Ultimate Life Church, but I believe in the body of Christ at large, where promises, dreams, and
Right.
visions are coming to pass, words that have been spoken, prophecies. I believe that we're in a time now of great manifestation.
Right.
And where there's great manifestation, there should be great celebration.
Right.
Because when God brings a thing to pass, you ought to rejoice, because you know you had to go through something to get to where we are now and to get to what God has for you. I love what God is doing, and we want to take just a moment to invite you out. Isn't church lit?
It's incredible, Dr. Russell. Listen.
No, it's lit.
It's lit.
It's
Okay.
lit. There you go. You're supposed to keep rolling, baby.
Okay, listen, can y'all start that over? I'm so
No,
sorry.
he can clip it.
One for a pain, peace for a shame. Garments of filthy promise to exchange. With a rope of righteousness, I want your promises. Help me sing it, yeah.
Joy for a pain, peace for a shame.
Yeah.
It's a filthy promise to exchange.
Oh yeah. Joy for a pain. Peace. Oh my God. Yeah. With the road. I want your promises. Hey, I want your promises. Give me your promises. I need your promises. Can live.